Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Let's learn computer science. Welcome to day 5 of 21 days Python Masterclass. Our today's topic is error handling in Python. We'll learn about what errors are and their types in Python, and also we'll explore some debugging techniques in order to fix those errors. So let's start. Now, what are errors? Errors basically are integral part of software development. Whatever programming language you use, Python, C, C++, when you create programs, when you test them, when you try to execute them, you encounter with errors. Now, errors basically, these can be as small as you missing out on some bracket, a colon, maybe a comma, right? And they can also be some big logical errors. Python provides us with informative error messages. Using them, we can easily identify and resolve these errors in our program, right? There are majorly 3 types of errors in Python: syntax errors, logical errors, and runtime errors. Let's explore them one by one. The syntax errors occur when the code created by the programmer violates Python's syntax rules. Now, every programming language, it has its own rules to write the code. So while writing, you make some mistakes, you do not follow some rule, or maybe you misspell something, then interpreter prevents you from executing the program. You cannot get the output until or unless you remove all those errors, right? So syntax errors all related with the syntax of the code. For example, if you look at the given example, here I have written if x is greater than 10, print x is greater than 10. Now, if we look at this statement is fine. However, if we look from Python interpreter's perspective, then it is not following the syntax rule for if statement. It is missing out on a colon which should be written here, right? So we'll explore all these syntax about decision-making statements and loop statements in our upcoming videos. However, right now you just need to understand whenever there is a violation of syntax rules, a syntax error occurs in the code, and the programmer, in order to run these codes to get the output, they need to remove all these errors. These all errors need to be fixed, right? These are some examples of syntax errors. For example, missing or mismatched parentheses, brackets, or braces. So I'll take you to Python shell to understand these examples in a better way. So first example for syntax errors is missing or mismatched parentheses, brackets, or braces. So if you look here, missing closing parentheses. So if I'm writing print statement and I forget to close the bracket which I started here, then I won't be able to run the program until unless I fix this error. In the example 2, mismatched parentheses. So one bracket is opened, however, 2 are closed. So mismatch. You only need to close 1. You can't close 2 when you're opening 1, right? Then incorrect bracket usage. Here you're creating a list. You're starting this bracket, however, you're not closing it here. and directly you have written this statement. So you will get an error when you run this code. So you have to remove this before you execute the code. Then we have missing colon in an if statement, right? Missing or extra colons. So if statement, you have to put a colon here. If you do not put, then you will encounter with an error, missing colon in an if statement. Next is extra colon in a variable assignment. So while assigning, you only have to write name is equals to whatever you want to assign. However, if you by mistake put a colon along with equal to sign, you will receive an error message. Then we have inconsistent indentation. Now you know that in Python, indentation is very important, right? To put something under a block, you need to put a colon. For example, you want to write some statements in a for loop, you need to put a colon, and then all these statements will automatically be indented this side. So if this is not done, then you will encounter a syntax error in Python. Then we have indentation mix of tabs and spaces. Indentation is automatically placed. You can't just mix it with tabs and spaces. You can't press tab, space to manually provide some indentation. So in that case also, you'll encounter with the syntax error. Then we have using invalid characters in variable names or identifiers. So if you write a variable name and you do not follow naming rules for variables, then you will encounter with this error. So as you know that a variable name cannot start with a number. If you use it this way, you will encounter with this error, which is a syntax error. Then we have invalid function name. Now, def is a keyword, right? To create a function, we use def, define function. So if you use a variable name, which you cannot use as per Python syntax rules, so you will encounter with a syntax error, right? Now, next is incorrectly using quotes for strings. So if you look here, message is equals to this is a string. Here we are starting with a single quote, however, we are closing with a double quote. So unmatched quotes. If you're starting with a single quote, you have to close it with a single quote only, right? So that's also a syntax error. Then we have using single quotes inside single quotes. It's not allowed. So if you're writing message equals to I am happy, so again, there is a mismatch. So this I is ending here only. Where is the starting point for this? So you can't use single quotes inside single quotes. For those, we have escape sequences. Right now, for you, these are some examples of syntax errors. There are many more. As and when we move forward in our 21 days Python masterclass, you'll understand them in a better way. Now, next is logical errors. As the name implies, logical errors occur when the code runs without raising exceptions, but produces incorrect results due to flawed logic or algorithm. So your logic is incorrect while creating the program. You want to do something, however, the procedure that you're following is incorrect. The logic that you're trying to put in is not right. Unlike syntax errors, logical errors do not cause the program to terminate abruptly, making them harder to identify. Here, it is programmer's job to identify the logical errors. Python interpreter can't tell you exactly where the error is, right? Because the error is not about the syntax, it's about the logic. For example, if you are trying to calculate average of numbers, right? However, instead of adding, you're multiplying them. And instead of dividing them with the correct number of elements, you're dividing them with incorrect elements. So your average will be incorrect. Another example for logical errors can be, if you look here, there is a function created, defined. Function name is calculate underscore area, where two parameters are passed, length and width. Then inside the function, area is equals to length plus width. So here the logical error is, instead of using multiplication, programmer has used addition sign. You all know that area of rectangle is length multiplied by width, not length added with width. So this error cannot be identified by Python interpreter, because as per Python interpreter, there is no error in this line. However, your result will be incorrect. So you as programmer, you need to look at your code carefully to identify the logical errors, right? Next, we have runtime errors. Now, as the name implies, runtime errors, these are errors that you face during the execution of the program. You don't get to know about them beforehand. Rather, when you run the code, then you encounter these errors. These are basically some unexpected situations that you can only get to know when you execute the code. For example, uh, during the execution of the program, user is trying to divide some number with 0. So division by 0 is a runtime error. There is no error in the syntax. You are writing everything correctly, right? There is no logical error, because maybe during the code you were trying to divide that number with some other number. However, during the execution time, some variable got the value as 0, and then that is how division by 0 error occurred. So these are runtime errors that you encounter during the program executions. There are some exception handling ways that we will learn about in some other video in depth. However, as of now, you only need to understand that runtime errors occur during the execution of the program. Next, we have some debugging techniques. Now, if you encounter errors during the program execution, you have to have some techniques in hand to fix these errors. So debugging is basically the process of identifying and fixing the errors in program code. Some of the debugging techniques I have mentioned here. For example, strategic use of print statements. You place your print statements such that when you run your code, you get to know how your variable values are being changed, what output you're getting at a particular point of time in the code, which will help you to understand about your errors, right? If you face some unexpected results, if you get some unexpected results, these print statements will help you. Then we have use comments to deactivate specific blocks of code without permanently removing them. So when you encounter some problems, you are unable to understand how to fix them. So instead of deleting that code, you just put them as comments. So in how do we write comments, that you can watch day one video where I explained about comments in Python. One method is mentioned here using hash sign. Then we have Python has a built-in debugger that allows step-by-step execution of the code, inspecting variables at each state. For this, you can use PDB module to set breakpoints. We also have assertions. So assert function we can use, and you can place assertions at critical points to verify that certain assumptions hold true. We also have logging module to log messages at various logging levels. And these can include information, warning, errors. So these are some debugging techniques. We'll explore them in depth as and when we create some complex programs. Now is assessment time. There are 3 questions displayed on my screen. Pause the video, try solve these questions, and I'll display answer key to these. You can match your answers in the end. This is the answer key. Please match your answers. That's all for today. Thank you.